people that have tuned in. I know you know this. This has been, it's on a very short list of the worst weeks in Nova Scotia's history, no question. Just tough, tough times here, and sports can be a little bit of a diversion. It's fun to just get your mind off stuff for a bit. So thank you on behalf of everybody tuning in tonight to hear from you. How are you doing, by the way, in this very strange situation?
Well, first of all, I just want to send my condolences to everybody in Nova Scotia. Know that we're thinking of you and sending all of our love and wishing that we could do more to help you guys get through this time. It's just such a tragedy in Canadian history, but we know that you're going to get through it. Uh,
Uh, you keep going by all means.
no,
Yeah.
I was going to say, but in terms of how we're doing pretty good. It's definitely a change. I've got two little girls. One of them is in grade 2. So I'm doing some homeschooling, which is totally different dynamic for us in our household. And she's in French. So I'm actually learning my French all over again, which is actually, I think, a good thing. And then I have another little 3-year-old. So I actually find the hardest balance is trying to keep her occupied while I'm homeschooling my grade 2 daughter. But we're doing a lot of baking. Yeah, we're finding time to kind of spend some quality time together as a family. I think the biggest challenge is just not having any time to yourself, really. Like you're constantly on, and so it's a little bit more tiring than I thought it would be.
Yeah. In a normal world, how often would you generally throw curling rocks?
Well, generally speaking, I try to throw every day in the season, and we're working out during the season as well, and so obviously that's changed. We ordered a bunch of gym equipment online, so that's arrived every day. We get a little new delivery. And our daughter is actually in competitive gymnastics, so she's trying to do her conditioning, and she kicks our butt. Like she is so fit, it's crazy. So we're having challenges against her. So I don't think in my adult life I can remember ever being home for this long, this long period of time. Like we're usually traveling for something, even the off season we're on the go. So it's definitely been a change, not packing a bag and being home and planning meals. And it's been good family time for us, but it's definitely been an adjustment.
Give me a sense of how you heard about this and how it developed in the curling world, because I think both the men's and the women's world championships were upcoming, as were a couple of more Grand Slam events. Everything seemed to shut down pretty quick. Was it like that from your perspective too?
Yeah, for sure it was. We were at the Briar. I was watching Brent at the Briar, and there was lots of talk about Ryan Fry was actually maybe going to go on a holiday to Italy. So he was following and talking about the coronavirus, and it was obviously in Italy quite bad. And so he was following it a little bit and talking about it, and then I started following. And it was the Sunday of the Briar actually that we came home, and Isabella was supposed to be in a gymnastics competition the following week in Ohio. And I started looking, and Brent and I were talking, saying, I don't think we're going to be able to go to Ohio for fear that we'd actually be quarantined. And we had our mixed doubles nationals right after that. And so we had decided actually on the Wednesday that we weren't going to go to Ohio and not take that risk and just stay in Canada. And then I think everything started happening on the Thursday and the Friday, and the gymnastics competition was canceled. And then shortly thereafter, mixed doubles Canadians was canceled. And then the rest of the season was canceled. Like that weekend, everything seemed to change. And it was definitely a shock. It was for the best for sure. It was the right decision made by everybody, but it was just so quick how everything shifted.
Is there any rumbling around your sport at all about when it might return?
Yeah, our team talks. We try to talk every, I don't know, 10 days or so, just to kind of actually the highlight of it's exciting to have a date with my team. And we've been talking a little bit about what we think, but it's just, there's so many unknowns, and all the provinces seem to be at a different stage of the coronavirus. It seems that some are doing better than others. But as far as travel goes, and air travel and congregating in mass gatherings, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but I'm hopeful that we can get it under control and we can start resembling some sort of normal life, whatever that means after this is all over.
Yeah. Having you here tonight, whenever people talk about the greatest curlers of all time, your name comes up, as does the name of a Nova Scotia legend by the name of Colleen Jones, who's a great friend to us at the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. As her prime was winding down, yours was kind of ramping up. I know you crossed paths. What did she mean to the sport as you were coming up?
Well, because we shared the same name, everybody always thought we were related or sisters, or and I just thought, wow, how lucky am I to be in that same company as Colleen Jones, who is just she's just a magnificent lady. Really, she's a tremendous person, and I recall very vividly when they won a Canadian championship we were at, and then her last games we were at that Canadians as well when they decided that they were going to step away from the game, and just what she meant to the game. She loved curling. I feel like I have that same love of curling that Colleen Jones has. She really respected the sport and just loved everything about what the sport meant. So I always respected her for that, and just her joy of it and the appreciation for hard work and where that will take you. So I admired her for many years, and then to meet her, and she was at the Olympics when we were there reporting, and I'll always have a soft spot for Colleen Jones. She's just a great person and a great person in curling, and we're lucky to have her.
Was she kind of a pioneer in the sense of bringing mental training to the sport of curling, sports psychology?
Yeah, I think back in that was kind of the start of it all, was them and Kelly Law's team. And so they tried to think outside the box and figured out how to be better. And now we're all trying to do that in every aspect. And I think it was the start of when curling really became appreciated as a sport that it is. And it turned a corner into a real fitness type sport where, and Colleen Jones is one of the fittest people that I know, and they looked at all aspects of the game, including mental training, and really focused on all aspects of the game off the ice, which we hadn't before.
Another thing she shares with you is that when she was growing up, she played a few other sports really well. You told me once that growing up, that there was a time where you kind of had to make a choice between curling and volleyball, right?
Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah. How good were you at volleyball?
I was half decent at volleyball, but to me, there was never even a question for me, to be honest. Like, I played all sports when I was a kid. I was a little bit of a tomboy. I don't know if that's a bad word to say, but I was in track and field, baseball, everything. Like, I was the shyest kid going. So I played sports to kind of have some sense of friendship and helped me come out of my shell. But when I was on the curling ice, it was like I was at home. There was no better smell in the world to me. There was no better feeling that I got. So even though I was okay at other sports and I did fairly well, it was curling that was a true love for me. And my parents, I think, sometimes thought I was crazy because at the time, curling wasn't in the Olympics. There wasn't a lot of, like, you couldn't play curling at university, and it was just a different era. But it was curling where my love was. And so they supported that. And as much as it seemed crazy at the time, I followed my curling pursuits, and it turned out pretty good for us.
I would say so, yeah. Did you always know you'd want to skip a team someday? Was that an immediate goal for you when you started curling?
I grew up at the curling club. My dad was he volunteered for everything. So we were constantly there as kids, and I always wanted to go. My sister, I think, kind of went just because she had to, but we were at the curling club all the time, and I followed it. I watched it on TV. I watched Connie Laliberty and Carrie Burtnick and Jeff Stoughton, and I watched all sports. My dad and I would sit there. We'd watch CFL, NFL, hockey, everything. So I understood the rules and I understood the strategy. So when I first started curling, I actually skipped almost right away because I understood what the strategy was, which a lot of kids my age didn't at the time. And so for 95% of my career, I actually skipped. And it wasn't because it was something that I needed to do. It was something that I understood the strategy. I'm always analyzing things. I think it's probably my best suited position. And I love the feeling of throwing the last rock, and I love the pressure of it. And I also like the fact that you can go off and be by yourself. The shy person in me kind of likes that as a skip, that you're off on your own, but you still get to be a part of a great team, which I've been very fortunate to have some great teammates.
I'm really glad you brought up the pressure word, because I was speaking to one of Nova Scotia's best ever golfers today who was going to tune in tonight because he's always admired the shots you have made under the most intense spotlight and pressure, some of the greatest shots in the history of the sport. He wanted me to ask you, when you're kneeling down in that hack with that rock in your hand and that shot about to be thrown, where do you go to mentally to come through so often?
You know, for me, it's always been, I've never been scared to lose. And I think that that's a great mindset. Like, for me, I've always thought it was such a privilege that we even get to play and like play it. I couldn't even believe we got to go to one Canadians and all of a sudden we're at multiple Canadians. And I remember sitting in the hack for the first Canadian final we were in, and we had the in off to win, which is kind of known as one of the big shots in curling. And I just felt I hadn't played well that game. And here I was in my dream come true, like a chance to win a Canadian championship. But I wasn't scared to miss it. So for me, it's always about just trying to lay it out there and have no regrets. And so I actually always say to myself before I throw a big shot, and am I nervous? Absolutely. But if you weren't nervous, there would be like, it's kind of like our roller coaster ride. It's why we do sport. Like if you knew you're going to win any given day, it wouldn't be as much fun. The fact that you can lose is what brings the excitement to it. But every time I throw a big shot, whether it's for a round robin win or a Canadian championship or an Olympic gold medal, the last thing I'll say to myself is here goes nothing. Because at the end of the day, that's all I can ask for myself is to put it all on the table. I can't control the outcome. If we lose, I've always known I had great teammates that were going to support me. And I was proud of the hard work we put in. The only thing that I'd ever be disappointed in is if I was scared to lose and I didn't lay it all out there.
Well, there's a great philosophy. Yeah. Do you do anything in particular with breathing or trying to calm your body down in those situations?
No, like not really. Like I just try to get in the moment. I usually take a deep breath. I remember in the Canadian final in '05, I tried to swallow when there was no saliva there. I was going, what the? I mean, you're definitely nervous, but I'm not scared of being nervous. And I think that's the difference. It's, you got to accept what nervous feels like and then put it aside and then focus on what you have to do. And I've always thought that being nervous and the adrenaline rush of it all is all the excitement and the reason why we compete in sport. Like, I feel like it's our privilege. It's this, I hate roller coasters. So I get my adrenaline rush like on the curling ice. How lucky am I? I don't have to do that big fall and drop. And so I do take a deep breath. And then I just tell myself, like I said, here goes nothing. Like, just go back to what you do and think deep down and just go back to how that feels when the pressure's not on. And it seems to have worked for me.
How long did it take you as a self-described shy person? Because one of the jobs of the skip, win or lose, is to put your face in front of a microphone at the end of the game and talk. You've gotten so good at that. How long did that take, and how tough was it for someone who was shy?
It took a long time, actually. Like, I was okay with the interviews, but I was always very guarded. Like, I just would answer the questions and I didn't want anybody to really know me. And then I think it was when we actually joined with Caitlin, we sat down and talked about what we wanted to be as a team and what I needed to be as a leader of our team. And I just realized I needed to be super authentic and just be myself. And at the end of the day, we all accepted who we were, like as our team and as ourselves. And I just felt, all of a sudden, I just felt free to be myself in front of the media in Canada. And it's super intimidating when you're a kind of a shy person that doesn't share a lot about themselves with very many people. And then all of a sudden there's, a million people watching what you're saying. It's a little intimidating, but I think as I've gotten older and as I've surrounded myself with people who I genuinely respect and I know they care for me, I've just gotten a lot more confident in myself and I know and I like myself, and hopefully people out there are okay with that. And if they're not, then at the end of the day, I'm okay.
Yeah. Back to Sochi for a moment, because I had the honor of calling every game you played in Sochi, and it was the greatest run I ever saw any curler, male or female, go on. Your play there was phenomenal. I also never saw ever an athlete who just enjoyed the Olympic experience as much as you. How did you get yourself to that spot where it was just sheer love for what you were doing?
Oh, yeah. And you're right. We did. We loved every second of those games from the moment we arrived, or even our 36-hour flight over. Like, we were in love. It was like a dream come true. And I think a lot of that has to do with our sports psychologist, Cal. He taught us to really love what we were doing. But I also think it's because of the heartache along the way. We lost the Olympic trials before to go to Vancouver. We were one of the favorites going in, and we performed very badly at those trials. And it felt like it might have been our time, and we just kind of blew it away. So I think for us, it was just a lot of disappointment. And then all of a sudden we were at the Olympics, and we decided that nobody was going to take the joy from the Olympics away from us. So win or lose, we were going to soak it all up. And we did. From the moment we got our Team Canada outfits, and even before we went to the Olympics, I mean, there's obviously a lot going on before Sochi with Russia and Ukraine and some political issues, and people weren't sure if our accommodations were going to be okay. And we just had this approach that everything was going to be perfect, and perfect in our eyes. So even if it wasn't perfect, it was going to be great. And I remember getting to the curling venue, and there was Olympic rings on the curling ice over the button. And we got to slide over the Olympic rings every day. And every day I thanked them. Like every day I would slide over from the first round robin game to the semifinal to the final. I was just so thankful to have this opportunity to say that we were Olympians, and to go out there and soak up this atmosphere and cheer on the hockey players and cheer on everybody. And just, we could control that. We could control how much fun we had and our enjoyment, and hopefully the results on the ice would take care of themselves. And if they didn't, we were going to look back with fond memories.
It seemed like for 10 days to us in the broadcast booth that you didn't miss a shot. When you look back, do you think that's the best you ever were?
Looking back, I would say like the Olympic trials and that whole kind of leading up to the Olympics was probably the best that I've ever performed. But I'll be honest, like when Sochi was happening, I never really thought about it. Like I felt like I was playing well, and I felt confident. I felt good with the ice, and I just told myself, if I can just make both my shots every end, we're going to be in pretty good shape. So that was all my focus the entire event. And then reflecting back and looking at some of the games, I realized, that I did have probably one of my career best performances. But when it was going on, I was just so in the moment and enjoying it and loving it. And I didn't even really think too much about it. But I would say, it's probably that stretch of time, those few months, was the best that I've ever played in my curling career.
What do you think the key is to putting together a really good curling team?
I think by far the first and most important thing is having good people as teammates for us. Like, you can teach people certain things about curling, but it's hard to teach somebody to be a good person. And so we've always kind of gone with that, like gone with people who we really love being around. You spend a lot of time with these people. They need to have a good work ethic. They need to want to think outside the box, and just really respect each other and bring out the best in each other in the big moments. And so that's always been the key to our success, and the key to what we look at in terms of trying to perform our very best. And I mean, obviously there's some curling talent that's required, but at the end of the day, our team dynamics, I believe, are one of our biggest strengths.
How do you think you have changed personally as a skip over the years?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question. I think I've really tried to become a really good leader, like, and a really good teammate, in the sense of trying to really figure out how to bring out the best in my teammates. And whether that means calling different shots, or just, I don't know, just giving them the confidence and draw weight, or whatever that may be. I really tried to focus on being a really good all-around teammate, and on and off the ice. And I think as you get older and with experience, you just figure out the things that are important to focus on and the things that aren't, in terms of team dynamics or how your team is functioning. But not a lot in terms of, like, I still like lots of rocks and play, and I like to make it fun. And if we're going to go out there, like, I want the fans to be entertained. I want us to be entertained. I want women's curling to just show what we can do on the ice. And that's actually been quite important to me throughout my career.
I'm glad you mentioned the fans, because you've been very visible in this country for a long time, but I think especially so since 2014. An Olympic gold medal will do that. When you get stopped in airports and on the streets, and I'm sure this happens more often than not, what are those conversations like for you?
I always think it's a privilege. I do. Who in their life gets to say that they were a role model for young kids? And like that, like when I go to a school or I meet young kids or they send messages to our website and say that we're their role model, like that is the most humbling thing to me in the world. And especially since I became a mom, I take that very seriously. Like you want to set a great example for these kids, and even whether they're older fans or just new fans to curling, the fact that you've impacted somebody's life and they want your autograph, like that's crazy. Like how lucky are we? So I've always tried to be, I am genuinely excited and super honored that people want to talk to us and share their stories. And I feel like they've been on this ride along with us. And to be honest, we work really hard and winning is amazing, but it's the fans that really make it extra special. So we're very thankful for them.
Yeah, they've liked you for a really long time. Have you, by the way, have you just gotten on the ice and thrown a rock in weeks? Is that even possible right now with distancing in place?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I've played curling with my kids on our floor. We put slippers on and we tried to slide and we throw some rocks and we have a little tabletop curling, but that's as far as it gets. So it's there's no way to get into a curling club right now. And I don't even think, I think they all took their ice out and but there's other things that we can do and we're just trying to enjoy the downtime, recover some injuries, and be ready to get back on the ice when we can get back on the ice.
I want to ask you about a little movement in the off season that your team was part of. You have, I mean, you've played with one of the best lead players in history in Don Askin McEwen, and all of a sudden Lisa Weigel from Team Holman, formerly of Team Holman, becomes available, and you picked her up. So you have a 5-player team now. A lot of people are wondering how this is going to work, and maybe you don't even know yet, but have you discussed how it might work?
We've had some conversations for sure. We don't know exactly how it's going to work, but and it's not something that we thought about it. We talked about it. I think heading into the Scotties this year, we didn't have a 5th player, and so we were trying to go and match rocks at night. And we said as a team, it would be great if we could have somebody that could really become a part of our team heading into the trials and then hopefully the Olympics. And then all of a sudden Lisa became available. And one, I think she's just a tremendous human being. And I knew her a little bit, but I've gotten to know her quite well over the last few weeks. And I thought she was a great human being, but she is out of this world good. She is just such a great person. So we feel so honored, and she's so smart and she brings so much to the team. So it worked out. It's just like all the stars aligned, and we feel so lucky that she wants to be a part of the team. And it's truly an equal team. We're 5 people on this team, and we're going to figure out what playing time means for everybody. We're going to all train together and then kind of figure out what it means in terms of getting Lisa in the lineup and what that looks like. But we won't know until we know the schedule and how many events we have. But we're all very excited. She's just awesome, and we're thrilled.
Couple of short snappers from people on the
Sure, sorry.
Number one, when your career ends, and we all hope it's not for a while, do you think you'll do some curling broadcasting?
I'm really hoping I can do some broadcasting. That's something that I've always wanted to do, even when I was a little kid. Never thought it would be possible, and maybe I'd have that. Hopefully, I'll have an opportunity to do that. I'd love to do it. It'd be a way to stay involved in the sport, and I love watching curling and talking about it, and so that would be something that I would love to do.
And here's one that'll stir things up a bit. If the best male curling team in the world played the best female curling team in the world 10 times, how would it break down?
Oh, that's a tough question.
A good one, huh?
It's a great question. Really good question. I feel that women's curling has come a long way, and we are striving to be where the men are at. Having said that, I still think the men have a strength advantage. They're just bigger and stronger, and their sweeping it's crazy what they can do with a rock. So I don't know. I'm just going to wimp out and just say 50% of the time.
I know you'd like to be in the games, though, wouldn't you? You'd like to be in that. But the big difference would be in the sweeping, right? That's because they can drag rocks now incredible distances. Some of these guys, can't they?
Yeah, the big difference for sure is sweeping. And I think women's sweeping has come a long way. So when I say that, I think our sweepers are fantastic. It's just the men are bigger and so they can put more weight on the broom. And it's distance for sure. But the biggest thing is line. They get rocks by guards that I can't believe. Like even in mixed doubles, Brent's sweeping and he gets stuff by guards that I can't believe he gets by. So it's just a different, they just have the ability to hold rocks a little bit better. And you think about in our game, if we rub a guard a couple of times a game, maybe you get that by and that's the difference. But I like to think we're just as smart and we have great feel for draw weight and we can make a lot of big hits. So I think we'd be in those games.
Want to ask you one last thing, and then back to your kids for sure. But you were going to be one of our stars at our big dinner called Women on Top of the World, which was scheduled for just a couple of weeks back. Obviously, had to be postponed. And it was interesting because when you signed on, it kind of added some real nice credibility for us. So thank you for that, and hopefully we can get back next year. But a question I definitely was going to ask you that night is this: someday when young athletes and especially young girls look at your story, what's the biggest part of your story that they can learn something from, do you think?
It's such a great question, and I talk to my kids all the time about it. If you ask my daughter what I always tell her, she's like, "It's that you can do anything." And I was a shy kid who had no confidence and just liked to curl. Hopefully, thought maybe could make a provincial and then a Canadians one day, and then all of a sudden, you know, we worked really hard and we started believing in ourselves and we won the Olympic gold medal. And a lot of people told me that there was no way that was going to happen, especially when I decided to go to law school and balance all of that. And here I am. And I had a lot of people all say that it would be very challenging when all of a sudden you became a mom. And I think that my kids actually added to my perspective and really kind of grounded me and gave me a better appreciation for what sport brought to my life. And so I think they made me a better player. So I think the biggest thing I'm going to say in a very long-winded answer is never let anybody knock you down. Dream big. And even if you don't achieve your dream, it's the journey. It's the love of the, like we said, the love of the Olympic Games. We're going to love it no matter what the outcome. And that to me is what sport is all about.
And clearly you found your life's passion in curling, didn't you?
I did. I always say to Brent, it's like going to a spa for me. It's cheap. I don't even spend money. I just go and I curl. It's where I find like I am truly at peace and at home and I love it. I love feeling of sliding out. I love being around my great teammates and just becoming a second family. There's so many great things about the game and I'll never be able to give back to it what it's given me.
Your two 7-year-olds really, or under 7-year-olds really behaved themselves. You didn't hear a peep from them. They're doing well, aren't they?
They were plastered against the door trying to wave at me and I ignored them.
Focus.
Great. I see there's 2 more questions. Do you want me to quickly answer them?
Yeah, let's take a quick look here, see if we touched on them. Broadcast booth, unexpected departures. Do you foresee a time when there's a mixed doubles tour? A lot of mixed doubles events, right?
I do think that there is a mixed doubles tour right now, a lot in Europe, and we do have a small one in Canada. I do think it'll grow. I think you're going to see people just focus on mixed doubles. It's just such a great game. It's super fun. Brent and I love it. It's hard though. It's exhausting. It's a lot of work, that game. But we love playing it and we're fortunate that we can do it with each other so that when we're away, we're still with our family.
Yeah, listen, a big thank you to Brent and your kids, and especially you. As I said, it's a tough time in Nova Scotia, and these sorts of things are just nice to do. So we thank you very much. See you back on the tour soon, I hope. And next year, if we can resurrect this Women on Top of the World dinner, you're the first invite again, okay?
I would love that. And I've always said that Nova Scotia is a place I could live. I just love the people. I love everything about it, the culture, just the feel you get when you get to Nova Scotia. It reminds me of the curling ice. It's full of peace. So I hope you guys do okay and find some peace and know that we're thinking of you.
Jennifer, thank you. Stay safe, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.